Well, hello there, folks. How are you? It's a massive welcome here from myself, obviously, Sherman Wright, in the middle of Stirling here. It's the first week of my dissertation, so I've had a wee bit of work to do this week just to sort of get prepped on and a bit of sort of crew cut on, and basically understand what the way is forward. However, basically, it's a Friday night, it's 6:30, and what do? We usually have a bit of a chit-chat with someone who is of some importance on the Quintessential Shermy Show, which is a series which I have brought in from the sports series, obviously leaning towards In a Lifetime. Now, what is In a Lifetime? In a Lifetime is a series, and it's been a series full of people so far who are very, very important individuals in their own field within Ballymena and the history of Ballymena. And tonight I have a gentleman who leaks no further. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The man I have with me here this evening is very, very high up on that pillar of point of being a person who within his lifetime has dedicated his life to the health of the good of others through a training skill of a martial art called karate. I have with me the one and the only Danny Redmond. Danny, you might not like being a bit of smoke blowing, Danny, but you're a humble man. But how are you, Danny?
I'm the best, sir. We touch the cold, but I'm fine.
All right, so you're not going to touch. You'll not touch the whiskey, Danny, will you?
No, not tonight.
What would your remedy be for that, Danny? What would you get, a bit of honey or what? No, knowing you'll come up with something. What would you do with that there? Have you had the cold?
I usually take. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. It's either echinacea or echinacea. It's something you get in the health shop. Just herbal. Cures you.
I've known you, Danny. I've known you to be a man of that type of thing because, obviously, of your beliefs and your Zen and stuff like that there, and your obviously your karate surroundings and the mentality that creates it around that there. But we'll go on with that there after a while. Obviously, we're going to hear for a chat for a good 35 to 40 minutes. Danny, I just want to let you know that this show was one of the highest. People were very, very on at me. Look, get Danny. There was people from all around. I'm going to be dead serious with you. There was people in Spain, people in Australia, and people in Canada asked me to get Danny Redmond on. They must have been old friends of yours. I can't list their names now, but they must have been old friends of yours. They must be people maybe you grew up with and then they departed or left Northern Ireland or whatever, or maybe they were scrap partners years ago or sparring partners, I don't know. But a lot of people was asking for you. And I knew you were one of the first I said to you nearly 2 years ago, do you remember? That I was going to be having stuff this year, and this is the preparation for the future. So Danny, I want to start. Sorry.
I was going to say maybe they're bored during lockdown and they got me on for a bit of a laugh.
Well, sure, Danny. If that helps them get through their lockdown, that's what we're both here for. There's no doubt about it. But anyway, on a serious note, Danny, obviously I want to start off with you brought a book out there last year. Obviously, I have it here. I was lucky enough to get sent. You sent me one over. Obviously, it was called Penny Bridge's Boy. Now, this is the book here. That's a stock of the book there, and this is the front cover of the book. The book was called The Penny Bridge Boy, Danny. After all these years, Danny, why the Penny Bridge Boy? Obviously, I know you grew up in the Penny Bridge area. Why did you feel like you wanted to bring a book out, Danny? And obviously, the context within it explains that, but just people who maybe aren't aware.
Well, that was my roots. That's where I was born. I was born just over the Penny Bridge down a little lane there called Cow Lane. And, it was an isolated place. That's where I spent my childhood. And a lot of memories, and I thought it should all start there because, whenever all the other children we ever saw was our siblings. We just played with our own siblings. We never had any other kids around there. So, it was another world for me. And I thought that's where it should start at. The Penny Bridge is a very unique place because it's now an industrial estate, but, in those days, it was a very beautiful area, with lots of greenery and all that, and trees and the river and the bridge and all. Very, very, very quaint,
A very famous place for those who were in the fancying game, Danny. It's a bit of Lover's Lane out there, wasn't there, and stuff. I've even heard my dad tell me about stuff like that there. And whenever I lived in Harrival, people talked about it, obviously, of course. And it certainly looked a very beautiful area. I lived in Harrival in 1981. And that's what, 40 years ago, over 40 years ago, 40 years ago this year. So, and it has changed completely and entirely since then. So, God knows what it have been, Danny, from perhaps the previous number of years that you had lived there. But Danny, there was some poignant stuff at the very, very start of your book. obviously, as you had grew up in age, you know, and your father and your mother there living a hardy upbringing down there, a sturdy workman's chore to help in the house, and you know, and you were certainly brought up at a different age down than some young boys around the town nowadays.
We didn't have much, you know. The only income we had at that time was my father's income. You know, he worked as a farmer, and there were 7 of us, you know, and
excuse me.
There was no electric light in those days. There was no phone. You carried your water from the well, outside toilet. It was all a different world than it is now, you know. Like I went to England when I was 18, and I was like going to the other side of the world. Now you can go there in 1 hour on a flight. But for me, even going to Belfast or Portrush at that time was another world for me. I had never been outside of where we were born. It was just you know.
And Danny, I think one of the greatest parts of your book, from my recollection of it is, was that whenever you were around 14 or 15 and left school and had to sort of like do a bit of work and try to obviously grow into that man that you wanted to become, and you took a job as a tea boy.
Well, what happened was,
and then obviously what came out of being a tea boy.
I started before that. I was bullied at school. You know,
yeah,
you come from the background I came from, like where there was no other kids to play with. You sort of were lost when you stepped outside that. And whenever I went to school, I was very scared of soft, bullied constantly. I went to 2 different schools and I was bullied at both of them. I left school at the age of 14 and went to work in the Breedwater Mill. And within about 8 weeks, I had been beaten up twice, badly. You know, one very seriously. And it was you didn't go back to your parents and tell your daddy that somebody hit you. You know, in those days you were told, well, go out and take care of it. Look after yourself. That's the way it was. So, I mean, I was like that, and I was afraid to do anything. But it was when I went to England and started to work as a male nurse. I was a male nurse for a year. And there was things happened in that environment I didn't like. I saw, you know, in those days, they weren't so particular about screening people who took on those jobs. And I saw the people who had special needs, I saw them being very badly treated. But at that age, I was 18 then, but I was a very soft 18. You know, if it was now, it would be different. I wouldn't stand by and watch what I did see. After a year, I couldn't take any more of it, and I left and went outside of the hospital. I moved into the building trade, and it was while I was in the building trade that I was on the London Road. Excuse me. I worked for a group called Murphy, and there was McAlpine, and all those ones were all on the same site. And you know, they worked night and day, and it was sort of ongoing. Like the lights were on all the time, so the night shift went off and the day shift come on, and there was about maybe 10 or 12 T-boys. They call them runners nowadays. You know, they call them a runner. You went to the shop for the men, you got them a newspaper or, you know, got them cigarettes or whatever they wanted from the shop. But all these workers, you know, there were different ones there. There was Irish, Scottish, English, Welsh. You know, they got into their head that they would have a bit of fun with all the T-boys, and our T-boy could lick your T-boy, and our site T-boy can take care of your T-boy and all that. So they started to set up matches. And one day I was approached in the canteen by one of the guys and said, "You're boxing for us on Friday." And I thought it was a boxing match, you know, in the ring with gloves and all. And I thought, well, you know, my idea was like, I don't want to say I can't do this because they'll think I'm yellow. But at the same time, I was hoping that if I was getting too big of a thumping, that they would step on and stop it. There'd be a referee and all there, you know. That was my mindset. But when it came to Friday, they just pushed the tables back in the canteen, and they said to me, "You're on now." And this other guy was there, and they handed us gloves. They weren't boxing gloves. They were gloves you lift bricks with, and the fingers cut out. And the rules were that it was a fight to the finish. You weren't allowed to kick the man or anything when he was down, but there was no such thing as a round or anything like that. It was on somebody got beat or somebody gave up. And that was my first introduction to that. You know, I was involved in quite a lot of them. over the next year and a half, and it just changed me completely. I wasn't going to let myself be the wee soft guy anymore, you know. So.
And then you come home, Danny, obviously, to different experiences where people had thought that certain members of, which it's not important who they are, obviously, or where they came from, but certain members of society obviously thought that you were still this young lad who could be pushed about. And there was one of the things in your book, Danny, and this isn't, it's not all going to be fighting talk, by the way. This is just a few anecdotes of a thing that stuck with me. It was like a scene of a film. You had come home from England and you were in a certain cafe, which was a very well-known cafe in Ballymena for people dating and get out and sitting smoking cigarettes and talking and chewing gum and doing all the things that you done in them days, you know, or put money in the jukebox, which was the main thing, basically. You know, you could have went into a cafe in them days and a cup of coffee and danced. You know, that's what people done, because that was the mentality in the 60s, wasn't it, you know? And basically, you seen 3 or 4 guys out the front, and you says to yourself, they were looking at you and they were sneaking in the door and looking at you, and you just knew and you just felt that this was the time that things was going to change. So what you done was you filled your pocket full of one of the coffee or one of the pepper jars.
It had
a handful of salt.
It actually started before that. I was working on a company called the West Piling. I didn't know these guys. They were a gang. There were 2 families of them, and you know they terrorized Ballymena at that time. They really did. Everybody was afraid of them. They never, the reputation they had was very few of them would have came to man. It was always 2 or 3, you know. And many people were beaten up, lost their wages and all. It was a constant thing every week. You know, the name was very, very big. I was working at a West Piling company, and the man who collected the union fees was a friend of mine. He was nice with me, looked after me. And whenever he was lifting the union fees one day, one of the members of this family just hit the box out of his hand, and the money went everywhere. And the wee union man was called Alfie. So I just bought it, and I said, let him alone, you know. So before I knew where I was, him and me was into it, and he said, I'll see you at lunchtime out in the square. And I went out, and him and me had a bit of a go, and that started it. He went back and told his family. My father was there, but he took nothing to do with it. He was way up at the far end. And this guy went home and told his family that my father and me had worked him over. So from then on, I was the enemy. You know, they were looking for me. I didn't know they were looking for me until one night I was at the bus station with the girl I was seeing at that time, my former, my wife, and they beat me up. And, the thing started from there. So then, unlike the past, I wasn't going to let it go. I started looking for them one by one, and I got quite a few of them. But that particular thing you're talking about in the cafe was, I went in, it was a weekend, and a weeknight, and I was sitting having a chip or something out there. Looked out the window, and there was a gang of them outside, and, I nearly had the fork. I knew I was going to get a hammering. And, I kind of thought I had to keep my head here, because once they came in, I didn't care about people seeing them, or they didn't care about the police, or they didn't care about anything. They would have done whatever they had to do. So the 2 of them came into the table and started to threaten me, and eat the chips, take the chips off the plate and all, And while they were talking to me, I was busy unscrewing the lid of the pepper pot, and I set it down. So they leaned over and warned me, one of them came around the side. So we're getting closer and they were going to go for me. And then I just quickly threw the box of pepper through the thing at his eyes, and the whole pepper went around him, and he started to scream. And then I got a couple of punches on at him, and then the other guy came in, then the whole lot of them came in. So I made me escape up through the kitchen where all the girls were working, and onto a litter bin and over the wall and away. But they looked for me all over Ballymena that night, I was lucky to get away from it.
Amazing, Johnny. And then obviously further on, I suppose a number of years on there, Danny, you decided to take up karate. Why was that? So around the late 70s and early 80s, you decided to get involved in a disciplined sport, because you weren't the sort of person that was rugged. You weren't interested in fighting. But you were
Well,
being bullied. You were being bullied. That's it. Anybody that's being bullied and doesn't stand up for themselves, I mean, that can lead to terrible. That can lead to terrible mindfulness.
well, in the early days, I was being bullied and I wanted to run away. But I have to
Do you
admit,
know?
well, I have to admit that when I came back from England, I was a different person. I was to blame for a lot of things. You know, you have to be honest with yourself.
Well,
I was very quick to take up anybody that was looking for me. You know, and whereas in the past I would have walked away from it or tried to run away from it, when I came back, I had a chip on that shoulder and one on that one as well. And you know, I was a bad egg when I came back to Ballymena. And
but then, Danny, is that not a result of what was being put up? Do you know what I mean? You know, so you're somewhat innocent.
Yeah, I mean, bullying's a terrible thing. I see the papers these days and hear it in the news where kids are self-harming and all. You know, I detest the bully, and every walk of life, I really did detest these guys, you know, or whoever, boys or girls. But I had changed since by being in England and being involved and the type of stuff I was involved in over there. But I'd always had an interest in boxing, and I went to the All Saints Club. You know, it was very small in those days, and Liam Neeson was there. And I remember him being there. He was just a big, quiet schoolboy then. And, you know, I remember asking him one day, Liam, what do you want to be what are you going to do when you leave school? I remember telling me he wanted to be an actor. And the truth is, I kind of giggled to myself because my way of thinking was, you know, actors are people who are in the movies, but they don't come from Ballymena. You know, but look where he's got to. He's a credit, you know, he's brought the name of Ballymena to the world, you know. But anyway, I had that aggressive thing in me then. After that, I was interested in combat sports. I went to another wee boxing club around North Street run by a man called Billy Crow. Billy was a supervisor in the Redwater Mill. Went there for a wee while. Then I went to All Saints and that type of thing. Raymond Letters and myself. Big fella Raymond Letters. He passed away there last year. But I was too old, really, you know, I think, to be starting a career in boxing. I had a couple of contests and all. I was on the county interim championships and whatnot. And but then I was in England. My uncle Charlie, that was my father's brother. He had lived in England most of his life. He was a miner, and he had worked in the mines in Stoke-on-Trent. And he was pretty low at that time. He had the miner's lung. He was ill. And what happened then was I went over to visit him. I was on a 3-week break, and one of the days I went out for a walk. And as you do when you're in Ballymena and all that, I called into this wee shop for a coffee. And when I was there, I heard this racket going on up the stairs, and I don't know what it was. I thought it was some man getting murdered by his wife, or maybe somebody moving house, or I don't know what the heck it was. So I called the guy over and I says, what's going on up there? Oh, he says, that's that new thing, you know, Kung Fu Karate or whatever it is, you know. And I thought, right. And I was interested immediately about it. And so what I did was I went upstairs to have a look. And that's where I got my first taste of discipline. I stepped inside.
What year is this, Danny? Around approximately?
You're talking the late 60s, early 70s. I stepped inside the place. It's called the dojo, would be a club. There was about 12 or 14 people there, and the teacher was a Oriental looking man, you know. And the minute I stepped through the door and walked in, you know, he just bawled me out. He just chewed me up. I didn't know what he was talking about because he was talking in Japanese or whatever. He pointed for me to get out, and I went out downstairs and told the man what had happened, and he laughed. He says, yeah, I can imagine. He says, it's not the first time he has done that. So then later on, when him and his members came down into the cafe for coffee themselves, I was invited over to the table. And he was very nice then. I didn't understand a single word he was talking about, but the other guys did. And they told me that I had broken the rules, you know, that I stepped into the place where they were training me muddy shoes. I hadn't bowed and all that stuff, you know. I thought, well, okay. But they invited me to come down for a class. And I went down 2 days later and took part. And from the moment I took that first lesson, I knew I would never leave karate. The moment I took that lesson, I was hooked. And I was there for another 2 weeks, and I took part every chance I got when I was there. And then came back home, started looking for clubs and things. And I found one in Belfast and one in Dublin. I travelled to it and all that, So that's where it started.
And then, Danny, eventually you opened up your own in Ballymena, and over the number of years, from 1981, I believe, you were one of the longest members of an organisational club in Northern Ireland a number of years ago.
Well, in those days, I had the market to myself, because there were no members. I mean, there was no clubs around doing the martial arts, and anybody that whenever I hit the newspapers, I mean, I can honestly say I stepped into the Ballymena club. Some nights there was 100 people there. We had to turn people away. We started the kids at 5 o'clock. We taught them to have 6. Then the other people came at 7, and we kept them there to 9. A big class, easy 80 people, and the kids' class easily 100. I had to get people to help me teach it, although they weren't qualified at that time, And it's sort of like, as time went on, obviously other martial arts like Rodney Moore and the mixed martial arts.
Certainly are.
And David Tony and the jiu-jitsu and all those guys came into the thing, and Ballymena now has lots of martial arts clubs. So I still have clubs, but they're not as big as they used to be.
No, I understand that. Like, Danny, I have a picture here. Obviously, I know I'm only after putting it up there, but you've always been. You were talking about being a big fan of boxing there, and you've always been a big fan of anybody locally in sport that achieves something. And I think Eamon would even say here, Eamon Loughran, obviously, this is a couple of days after Eamon won the WBO World title in October 1993. That you and your group was one of the first people to sort of make a presentation. That mirror was engraved and stuff, and he still has it down in the house there, And I think that's a great thing through sport in Ballymena, that one sport will appreciate the other sport, and the love of the name of sport. I thought that was very poignant there. It must have meant something to you, Danny, to be able to do that there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not every
family friend and whatnot. You knew Ned and all, didn't you?
Sorry?
You knew Ned and whatnot, and you were a family friend of the Loughrans.
Ned was a great man. I used to go up to Ned, and he handed the keys to me, and I went into the boxing club during the day to train by myself. He was a gentleman, and but apart from that, it was just I knew Eamon well, and Paddy and all them and the whole family, but it was just the thought of somebody from our own hometown achieving something. I mean, not everybody has won a world title.
No.
And, I mean, you have to hand it to Eamon. And, when you meet Eamon downtown, we sit and have a coffee, same as you, very down to earth. And I just admire anybody who does that. Like John McAdory, remember John?
Yeah, I remember John very well. A great friend of mine. Yeah, the whole family.
John passed away there about a year and a half ago.
Lord of mercy on his soul.
And John actually made the Olympics.
I did indeed.
So our club at that time, even though we weren't involved in what he was involved in, we got together. Our funds were pretty good, and we said, look, we've got a bit of a surplus here, and we're not doing any competitions at the minute. What do you say we help John out here? We invited John down and made a presentation check to him and all. So things like that there, because we need to stand beside each other in sports,
So isn't that great, Danny, isn't it? Well, Danny, here's a couple of pictures here I just want you to talk to us about. Where's these pictures here from? There's a picture of you there with all these guys here. Is that in Japan or something, is it?
No, that's, you see the man, he would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
For nothing.
That's him there. Can you see me pointing at it?
Yes.
He would be the man, his sleeves is rolled up here. Hold on, turn this off. His sleeves is rolled up. I'm a member of his group. And that was taken. Ian would have been doing weekend seminars. That would have been all the people have been there. It was a residential seminar, so I was over at it at that time.
And the likes of these pictures here, Danny, is that the same group, sir? Is that the same?
That's the same group. I don't see Ian there. Wait to see who he is. I don't see him in that one.
Well, Danny, obviously, are all these guys?
He's behind me there. He's right behind me there. Yeah.
Well, Danny, obviously, you're not just you're not just a black belt. you're a seventh Dan. You know, how long does it take you to do a black belt, Danny? You know, right from the very start.
Well,
you're talking 5 to 6, 10 years.
Well, first of all, I know I would be very humble about belts, because here's the way I look at it. In the karate, it's a good thing in a way, because what it does is it lets you see you're improving. But at the same time, you know, if somebody took their belt off and they were to be performing, you know, you wouldn't know if they were a black belt or not if they had no belt on. So you go by the standard of the person. In my early days, I wasn't allowed to attempt my first Dan grade until I was training for 12 years, 4 nights a week. Now, nowadays, I hear tell of people going to do the test within 3 years, 2.5 years. Right. I failed it the first time.
And what is a Dan? What is a Dan, Danny? What is a Dan?
Well, it's a step up. It's a step up from the early. What you're doing is the Japanese system has different belts. They start back to front, like 6th kyu and all that stuff. They go first kyu, second kyu, third kyu. It goes right back. The black belt is the sort of where you more or less step up. Probably would use the word going towards master type thing. That might be the right way to describe it. It's the first level of above just the basic student, you know. But it's only when you get your first Dan black belt, you start to really understand it and realize how little you really know. And you know, it's but I was training for all that time, and I failed it the first time. I waited for a year. I tried it again. I failed again. The Japanese were very, very hard to train with. I can remember being in dojos. The karate in those days was so much different than it is now. I mean, nowadays it's all based. Well, it's not all based, but people judge it by sport. They see people out on the competition area, and they do lovely, spectacular techniques and all. It looks fantastic. But the true karate was Okinawa. The mainland Japanese stole the karate, if you like, they made it theirs. But it's geared towards competition, sport, and medals and all that type of thing. But in Okinawa, it wasn't designed towards that. There was a kind of a link up with the Chinese. And Okinawans, they trained in karate to protect their lives, to protect their property, to defend themselves. And, you know, the whole thing about that is if you see someone in a competition area on the mats, they're either competing at medium or long range. Out in the street, it doesn't happen that way. People are on top of you. People are in on you. You know, it's a totally different thing. So the real true karate is the sport's an aspect, a branch off from it, but it's not the karate that I like to follow. You know, I feel that I've seen little small people in Okinawa, kids. You know, you can imagine what they would do. I did ask the teacher, why would you train that way? And they said, well, if they kicked you in the thigh, I saw kids break a board that thick with their big toe. And you can imagine if they hit you in the stomach with that big toe, it's like a sword. You know, that's, whereas, you know, in a competition arena, you're not allowed to strike the eyes or the groin or the throat or things like that, you know. But in a real life situation, you know.
Well, Danny, obviously your love for the game has taken you around the world. I've got some great pictures here. Obviously, on your 7th Dan there, Danny, there's a certificate here that you got. It was a certificate that you'd received from the World Combat Association, an official instructor. Is there many people with them there, Danny?
There are thousands of those people all over. Yeah, there's a big thing to do with them. They're also affiliated with the British Combat Association, which is a European and worldwide organization. Probably the best group I've ever been with. I find a lot of politics in karate. It's great. There's a great side to it, but you also get other side to it. And I find out that, you know, you get a lot of other things wrong with it. But what I found within those organizations, how much they go out of their way to help each other. And I've gone over to seminars in England where you would step into, see, it's not just karate in the World Combat Association, it's jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, the lot. But when you go to one of those seminars, you know, you might be there for 3 days, and, you know, one teacher comes out and maybe he's a jiu-jitsu, and you take part in that, and they're all working together to improve the martial arts and camaraderie and everything. It's wonderful, you know.
For the good of everybody's game.
Yeah,
Danny,
yeah.
I have a couple of pictures here now, and I definitely know that obviously just some of the pictures of your classes, which are nullified at the minute, obviously due to the current situation of COVID. That's the Ballymena Judo Club there, obviously, which is at the Ballymena Leisure Centre. You obviously then have another, which is in Resharton, and you also do have Ballymoney. So you'll get back to it, Danny, won't you?
Well, there's another one. There's another one that we have there. It's Portland Owen as well, and
right.
The teacher there would be Stephen Sersner.
I know Stephen well.
My top student, you know, and Stephen takes that, you know, and we kind of work it between us because he's pretty busy at times working in Belfast, you know. But no, we've had no classes since last March, so it's tough.
Things is going to come round again, but Danny, let's hope and pray, you know. Let's just hope and pray that things do come back round again, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, better to be safe than sorry, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it, you know. So, but
Danny, your love for famous people has taken you around the world to go and visit some famous people's places. I have a number of pictures here. I know that you've always told me about these here, and you've always told whenever we were sitting in coffee. It's the sort of thing, to if you can excuse my pun, Danny, it's the sort of thing that you're that proud to talk about that you never shut up about them.
Yeah, get for it. Oh, there's Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran.
Where was that taken out, Danny?
That was taken in Newcastle. I went over to a dinner. He was brought over to this, you know, what do you call it? The City of Light. Is that what you call it? It was Newcastle is in competition with this other team. What do you call them? There's a big competition between the two of them over the bridge. I'm not any football.
Sunderland.
Well, it was in that. It was in their hall, you know.
Right.
And Roberto Duran came over there, and you know, he was talking through an interpreter, and Ken Buchanan came out that night. They hadn't seen each other for years. He took the title of Ken Buchanan, but many people thought he fouled him and all that, you know. But he took the title of Ken, and, you know, they looked at each other for a couple of minutes, you know. It was electric. And then they went over and hugged each other, you know. But you got the opportunity to get the microphone and stand up and ask him a few questions, you know. And I said, my question to him was, when you got involved in boxing, did you have an idol? Did you have someone you aspired to, like a Jack Dempsey or a Joe Lewis or something out there? Because Clay wasn't around at that time as much, you know, in his young days. And he said, Ismael Laguna. Ken Buchanan had took the title of Ismael Laguna, and then Buchanan then Duran took the title of him. Aye.
Ismael Laguna. I've never heard of him now. I heard of Esteban de Jesus.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something about him, about Duran. I was standing beside him, and he put his arm around me for the photograph. I know, and I mean, at that time, I'm a bit lighter now. I've trained down a bit. I was about 15 stone then. And he put his arm around me, and I can only describe it as like getting caught in the jaws of a crocodile. He just done, and he pulled me onto 1 foot. And I was standing on 1 foot nearly, you know, for that photo. And then I said to the man after, I says, I'm not happy with the photo because the way I'm standing. That's when he got that other one taken with him. And later on, the man, Martin Devlin, because I had come so far, there was a bit of a get-together back at his place, and just out of the blue. See, at one time I had a plan to bring Roberto Duran here.
Right.
But I realised it was well out of my depth. The money and all would have been too much for me and whatnot, you know. But your man brought me in, and then later on, Duran was sitting there. You see, you know, a lovely man. He was so friendly and everything. And then I started to talk to him about, you know, his technique. He was a great infighter. And I started to ask questions through the interpreter, you see. So then he said, he stood up. Duran stood up and asked me to go up, and I could feel the knees starting to shake, you know. I looked at me, you know, and your man says, he says he will show you better than to show you than to talk. And I thought, right, okay. And then I looked into his eyes at that stage, and I'm not kidding you. And this is not just for the sake of this show. I looked into his eyes, and I could imagine what some of his opponents felt like looking at those eyes. I was on a very friendly level with him, but you know, so he told me to do a punch. So I did it very slowly, tentatively, make sure I didn't hit him, you know. And he just slid and he hit me a wee tap, you know, in the ribs. And I sure God, I thought my ribs were caved in. And he gave a big laugh. He says, "Oh, sorry, Daniel. Maybe big punch too much."
Yeah. Hands are so high. Do you know what I'm going to tell you? You know, Danny, do you see any man that ever beat him? You know, they nearly had to kill him. You know, Thomas Hearns had to knock him out, or he'd have been there at the end. He'd have been there at the end of the 12 rounds. You know what I mean? Marvin Hagler couldn't put him away, and he's the only man. He's the only man to school Sugar Ray Leonard. Whenever he was, and not in Montreal, but the night he beat Sugar Ray Leonard was the night Sugar Ray Leonard was shown up by another man, and nobody else ever done that. You know, he done it.
Then Sugar Ray come back and
he partied, sure.
He boxed him, you know, and kept away from him. No mass. They called that no mass. They walked out of the ring, didn't they?
That's right. But the brawl in Montreal.
I met Sugar Ray too. That
was next.
There he is.
Where was this here at, Danny?
This was in the same place.
Right.
See, your man Martin Devlin used to run these shows all the time. And I came over. You can see by the eyes I had a wee drink in me that night.
Well, I thought maybe Sugar Ray had shot them.
No, but the thing about him, Sherman, was I shook hands with him, you know, and you know what I tell you, he had hands like a girl, Sugar Ray. His hands were so small and so fine. It was hard to believe that those hands could do so much.
Damage.
I mean, they weren't even calloused. They were so fine, like a pianist, you know. I noticed that right away. You know what I mean?
But a well-disciplined lad, like, weren't they?
Very nice. Very obviously they were nice with all the fans and all like that there. But to meet somebody like those people, you know, was special for me.
I would imagine so, hey. But then, Danny, obviously, the one that you went to his graveside is the one that was your hero in boxing. Obviously, you know, like being a bit older than myself, obviously, I can go right back there too, but obviously not to the same as what you can. Jack Dempsey.
He was. I grew up with him. Not with him, but I grew up listening to him. You know? One of my uncles or some connection of mine in the family had actually saw him fight, and he fought the Frenchman Carpentier and Jersey.
Carpentier.
Carpentier. And we grew up with that, you know. There was always a photograph of him in my grandfather's home and all that. And I mean, I'd heard about Jack Dempsey, you know. He was like my patron saint. I heard it every day.
You should give all the books. You have all the books there, Danny, and you know.
Oh, I have. And okay, you know, there's people who say, you know, I mean, you've got to look at it, you know, he never weighed much more than 13 stone. And, you know, he did fight big men, you know, and all of that there. And if you watch the films of him, they're all like Charlie Chaplin type movies, you get a judgment, you might say, like he's very crude, he doesn't look so much. But then I go by people like the great Ray Arcel, who was a man who trained old-time fighters, and he trained modern fighters like Duran, and he trained people like Benny Leonard, great boxers, you know, all right through. And he said he said that Jack Dempsey was one of the greatest fighters he had ever seen, and he raved about Dempsey. Now, this is not a man who would have talked like that. He was very careful about his words, you know. He would never put any other them down. But he said when Dempsey entered the ring, the canvas was on fire. You know, people were going crazy, tearing the hats off each other's head with excitement, But then you look at the modern day fighters and you say to yourself, I personally would put him up. I would put him around about the 6th best heavyweight of all time.
Well, if you look at Mike Tyson, Mike Tyson has studied a young Mike Tyson before he sort of lost his mind. God help him. Before he went into an oblivious part of his life due to all the other situations that happened to him, and was forced upon him. Mike Tyson always said that what he learned by what Customata told him, and that was by studying the old. So Mike Tyson's style, Mike Tyson's knockout, ferocious killer instinct style was set on the style of Jack Dempsey.
The Bob Dempsey.
So it wasn't on Joe Louis, it wasn't on the Brown Bomber, it wasn't on Cassius Clay, it wasn't on it was on Jack Dempsey. Short shots, killer force, and damage see you. You know what I mean? And at that time, I suppose, Danny, you could turn around and say that Tyson at that stage was as good as anyone I've ever seen.
Well, in those days, if you watch the films, they didn't go back to the neutral corner. When the man went down, they stood over the top of him. And as soon as he took one glove off the canvas, he was thumped another time. He had no chance, he never. But it was very brutal. They wouldn't have stopped the fight as early in those days. I admired Dempsey as a fighter, but I also admired his life. He had a very hard life. He was born into poverty. He had Irish, Scottish, and Cherokee Indian blood in him. He became a hobo. He had to leave home because whenever they got to a certain age, the mother and father couldn't keep them. He was a hobo all around America. He worked in the mines. He fought in mining camps. He fought in bars. He had hundreds of fights, and that was where he learned his trade. His policy was get it over with as quick as possible. That's why in all these fights he went straight in. He didn't hesitate, But, there's always people would say nowadays they maybe wouldn't count. I don't know. None of us know. But the point about it is when I go with people like, as I say, Ray Arcel, who was a branch off from the old style to the new, and he knew them all, and he raved about Dempsey. So, I don't know. It would have been a lot lighter. He would have probably been a light heavyweight in today's game,
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And you were at his graveside, Danny. Where is this, or where is
it? He's buried in Southampton Cemetery, Long Island, New York.
Amazing.
And when I was in Colorado, I visited the home he was born in. It's a cabin. It's now a museum. So I went out there. Yeah, and I presented a photograph of his grave, to the museum, and they were chuffed. I took it out with me.
Brilliant.
It was just something I wanted to do. I don't know.
So, Danny, obviously this is all through your training and obviously earning a wage from your profession. Danny, that's not the way things started out for you, obviously. You know what I mean? So it's a tremendous journey, Danny, isn't it? You're talking about living in the house there. In them days, outside toilet, no electric, no running water, so I think, Danny, you've done rightly.
Well, what I would say, just a bit we missed out on, Curtis Sherman, would be is whenever I was bullied for a long time, and then I became a very violent person myself. I really did.
Yeah.
I did a lot of things, that when I was writing the book, my late wife, Maureen, she said to me, "You're saying things in that book that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't say those things." And I says, "No, I've got to tell it the way it was. I've got to tell it the way it was, because that's not me now." And it was the martial arts that took me away from that life.
Well, you see, that's
the great thing about it. It's a discipline, and even after I got into karate for a long time, I was disqualified in so many competitions because I couldn't get the street out of my system for years. I got to finals of All Ireland's and Northern Ireland championships, and then when the man went down, I didn't know when to stop, and I was through out. And I was wrong. It took many, many years, but through the training of the martial arts and the etiquette and everything else, I can honestly say that the martial arts just changed my whole life, so it did.
So, but then, Danny, I was going to actually get to that. I was going to try and poignantly end on that note. But you're okay. But the thing is, Danny, at the end of the day, you then gave something back. That's where I'm coming from. That's what this is. In a lifetime series, isn't just about what you've done in life and how it's about what you gave back. Everybody's aware that, it's what you give back. Like, you know what I mean? To be going 40 and 45 years, Danny, and helping. How many people do you think you could put through skills? I suppose you couldn't count it, could you?
Trained.
Aye.
Honest to God. Honestly, thousands, and that's not exaggerating. But I tell you what's one of the most rewarding things, Sherman. I would be stopped down the town sometimes, by somebody, or I would get a little message, from somebody from another country who told me they trained with me when they were such and such age, And over the years, I've got feedback from people who have told me, like, you didn't realize it, Danny, at the time, but you actually saved my life. I was on the drugs. I was in a bad way. They hadn't confided in me, but they were told to take up some activity, probably by their therapist or whatever, and they came to me and they said the hard discipline, and all that there helped them to make a new start and all. I've had people who told me they were on a state of depression, be it broken marriage or alcohol and all that. I have people come to me now, and they're people who, they're grandfathers, and they're bringing their grandchildren to me. They had brought their own children, now they're bringing their grandchildren. That's great, and the purpose of writing the book was because I've had different people point out to me about their kids being bullied, and I would say to the little boy or little girl, I was bullied. Excuse me, I was bullied. And they look at me, you see, they would maybe say you as the teacher, and you're wearing a black belt, and they would say, we were bullied. And I would say, yeah, but I wasn't always the teacher. I was like you. So I felt that it was necessary to write the book. Yeah. But I told some of the parents, that as you get into the book, things gets a wee bit kind of where I don't hold back. Don't hold back what happened. It's not for young kids to be reading just yet, But the rewards I have got from the life I have followed, that's tremendous, It really is.
So you've sort of put it in a nutshell there, Danny, and obviously, you've got a second part of the book. And Danny, obviously, there's one picture here I just will end with. Obviously, can you? What's his name?
I call him Bob.
Why do you call him Bob? Because he doesn't weave.
No, that is the name he has. I got that from Germany. At the minute, I'm getting a gymnasium built here at the back. It's going to take a while. I'm going to take up the backyard. The car's going to have to sit outside. I want to get my own gym. I should have had done years ago. People who, from my own personal training, and then different people would say to me, do you never do one-on-one training sessions and all that? I would love to come for lessons. So it has to be done, And he's one of the guys, he's all I have to train with at the minute, and he's in my kitchen. He's just beside the cooker. There's not enough space.
So, Danny, am I right in saying that if you burn a fried egg or something, that he gets it? Or if the music comes on too loud, you hit Bob a couple of times.
Will you hear this? I had to actually go across to the neighbours across the way. He's standing looking out the back window, and I had to go to the neighbours one day and say, listen, two of the girls over there, listen, don't think I'm staring in your window.
Throw a wee moustache on him, Danny, put the hat on, sit him out the back, you'll scare the life out of somebody. But hey, honest to God, it really has been an absolute lesson just listening to you, Danny, and obviously great crack. Me and you have always been good friends, you know what I mean? We've always been met in the swimming pool and stuff. And Danny, I miss them times so much. The swimming pool, the steam room, the sauna, you mean? It was brilliant. They were great days, you know what I mean? But there's there's another couple of celebrities who's bought the book off you themselves. Big Eddie Ray there, or Eddie from Mahawkle there. Big gentleman. He was crying out there. You have Jerry Sloan, and you have Big Chris there. Or Big Gregory, I should say. Big Gregory Smeg.
Gregory Welsh.
Gregory Welsh, bought the book off, but them boys always talk about it, and they're always, the whole town was talking about it, so I'm sure everybody's looking forward to book number 2. And just to ask you, book number 2, is it a carry on?
It is, Sherman. I'll tell you the truth. I when I wrote the book, as I told you, my late wife Maureen, she advised me so many times, don't write some of that stuff. My God, some of the stuff you're writing there, you're saying things that you've done, and you're teaching people. So I kind of held back a fair bit from a lot of the stuff. But now the feedback I've got from the book, I haven't had one negative comment.
No.
And people are saying to me they love the honesty, they like the truth, you didn't hold back. They like that. So I've decided then to just go all the way and tell it all. So
well, Danny, I went to bed one night and I think it was on page 100. And I says to myself, I'll read 6 pages. I literally nearly finished it because the honesty kept me going. And I was bursting out laughing at times. 4 o'clock in the morning, a boy knocked my wall and he says, what? I said, it's okay. I said, I'm reading a book. I burst out laughing. You know, so all these different excuses to enjoy a book, you know, and there's nothing like a good book, like, you know what I mean? And especially someone local like yourself who's going to write a book and whatnot, you know. But Danny, just give me 2 seconds here. There's a question I want to ask you. Do you like pizza?
I do.
Right. Do you know Lawrence Philpott?
I do.
Right, The Apprentice's dad.
Why? Yeah.
Aye. Right, well, his wee daughter, we see. Wee
That's
Jessica.
right.
Wee Jessica, right? She's become very entrepreneurial in her old age, right? We see. Unbelievable. What she has done is devised a wee business plan along with the dad and the mum, obviously, Julie and that. And what they've done is they've set together a pizza oven and you get all the provisions, enough to make pizzas and stuff for friends coming around the house, right? So this here's the pizza oven. What they do is they deliver it. They turn it on for you. You make your own pizzas and all. So you have a handful of kids there, a handful of friends. You make your own pizzas and all, you know, and set them into the pizza. Look at that there.
Oh, delicious.
Huh? That looks lovely, doesn't it? We can see a couple other pictures here. Look at that one.
Oh, great.
So
I like them well toasted.
I like mine well toasted as well. But that's it there. It's called Take and Bake. It's called Take and Bake Pizza. So I'm just pushing that out to people there at this current moment in time, you know, Danny. If you had a handful of friends there, or if you had a handful of the daughters and a handle of the children there, I think it's only £40, whatever it is. I'm not too sure. The context is there. Take and Bake Pizza at on Facebook. Have a nosy, folks, and you get to make obviously the pizzas and the other the crepes and the wraps as well, which is full of strawberries, biscuits, sweets, chewing gum, you name it. It's full of absolutely everything. And that's on Lawrence Philpott, Take and Bake, and Jessica's Facebook page there. I just want to say, obviously, that tonight's show has been sponsored by Ali Gordon Decorating. It's the airline, and this is always sponsored by Ali G Decorating Services, which is an interior design expert styles. Contact Ali on www.aligdecorating.co.com or .co.uk, any of the two. You can also contact them on a phone number by 07762 340 920.
Well, Simon, can I before in case we cut off quick or something, you know?
Oh no, we're not cutting off.
My niece Tracy Redmond, you know her.
Yeah, that's the last order. There it is. There,
Tracy. There you go. Tracy lives over.
That was the last order.
She lives
Tracy's in Ayrshire, which is down. I was down in Ayrshire last year. I have it down here. Say hello to Tracy Redmond, South Ayrshire. I was in Ayrshire last year with a rugby club, and the closest I got to in and around the main part of Ayrshire was what do we call it? What's his name? Robbie Burns was from Ayrshire. Yeah. So South Ayrshire Bulls was the rugby club I was at. And next to us, this big area.
Well, I'm just saying to Tracy, hoping to see her and Hannah and Lucy, the daughters, when they come back over here again. Well,
fantastic. Obviously, great. It's absolutely brilliant, Danny, that you can be able to do that there, you know, through this portal. And obviously, you know, maybe not see them face to face, but obviously if they're watching here tonight, and obviously it's a big shout out for myself, Tracy. You've always been a big supporter of my trying to improve life and trying to move on in life and whatnot, and you've always been very encouraging, etc., etc. You know, you sponsored my trip to South Africa, which didn't come off, but the money went to other charities, of course. So obviously, thanks very much for that support. Well,
Sherman, you yourself, I mean, you bring people on here and you highlight them and all, but you know, you don't give yourself enough credit sometimes. You do a great job. You do
I'm learning to be humble, Danny. I'm learning to be humble.
You've come on a long way, and I know your show's very, very popular. Anytime I'm downtown or anything like that, there, you know, Big David and Ali and all them boys, your name's always brought up about Shermie's show and all that there. So I mean, it's. Everybody looks for it. I'm looking for it every time I be on Facebook. So, congratulations.
Well, Dan, I totally respect that. I don't expect anything less from a man like yourself, you know what I mean? So basically, the only thing I'm doing here, Dan, is just trying to move on with my life. I'm like everybody else. I'm like whenever you moved from England back to here, just to keep on moving in life there. I'm sure you heard the news this week. I got in to do a Masters.
Yeah,
you know,
great.
so that's my first Dan, if you would say, you know what I'm saying?
That's wonderful.
You know,
wonderful.
so
Come a long way.
if you'd have told me that 10 years ago, Danny, I would have been sitting at the side of Broadway, tapping you for a pound coin, laughing my head off at you and calling you a lunatic. You know what I mean? So, thank God, I made my dreams come true.
We're only limited by our thoughts.
Danny, we're only as old as what we think we are.
That's right. I feel pretty old at the minute.
Well, I wouldn't like to be Bob.
Well, okay. He gets a bit of a batter now again, so he does, you know.
Well, if he's in the wrong place at the wrong time, he's going to get more.
I was just thinking, if my wife was alive today, he definitely wouldn't be there.
No, no.
He would be in the backyard looking around him.
He would be all around the place. He'd have been dead by now, Danny. He'd have been the head cut off and the arms cut off.
She wouldn't have had that.
Oh, no. Hi, Danny. Listen, it's been an honour and a pleasure. And just before I do go here, I just want to say thanks very much. I want to wish you the best of health. I want to say thanks on behalf of all the guys who obviously wanted me to get you on. And as you were well aware, this was I had asked you 18 months ago. You know what I mean? It was just getting the technology sorted. You know what I mean, and things like that. You know, and Danny, no doubt about it. If God gives us the house, we will meet again and we will have a coffee. And the first one's on you. All
right. Oh yes, of course. I'll definitely take care of that.
That's no problem. I'll take care of that. I'll take care of the next one. Okay, Danny.
Right, thank you.
God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, there you are. Danny Redmond, absolute legend. 7th Dan, a man who came from an impoverished background to basically make good of himself, and obviously is evidence that if you think straight and if you think right enough, you're quite capable of doing whatever you want in this life. So if you need motivation, or if you want to sit and talk to someone about something, you see Danny down the town, you couldn't meet a better man. Danny, I'm going to leave it at that. Good luck and God bless.
Thank you, Kat. All the best. Good night.
Thank you.